This is Gear.Club Unlimited 2, so I've played a fair little bit of this one. That's what I've been doing today. So this is on the Nintendo Switch. This is the sequel to the original Gear.Club Unlimited, which is kind of a port of a mobile title onto the Switch. It's kind of in the vein of the Forza series. It's 3D driving. So I'm going to start by showing off the content. So first off, multiplayer wise, online is not available yet. You can join clubs and leagues, which is kind of neat, I guess. And then there's split screen. So you can have 4-player split screen. And you can also have 2 players use the same set of Joy-Cons if you'd like. Now, the reason we're specifically doing this is so I can give you an idea of the content that is present in the game. So first off, we've got the different championships that are available. We've got the foothills, we've got danger turns, and we've got rally contest. And then we're going to go back and actually show off all the different types of tracks. So there's 4 biomes, environments, whatever you want to call them, and each one has a series of maps included within it. And yeah, you're kind of just getting an idea of the content that is present. Cool, so we're going to back out of that and we're going to go into the actual main kind of championship mode. So with this being a sequel, you would think it's more of an expansion on the original, but I don't know, like going back and reflecting and watching the video I made for the first one, I kind of feel like it's a downgrade in some areas. And I say that in regards to the loading and the general look of the environments and just the quantity of content that's actually present in this. So we actually get to see the tracks this time. You can see all the different things, and they kind of cut it down to different races as you're going on it. Now it may seem like I've done absolutely nothing, but when you're actually doing the tournaments, like the A1 district, it'll give you, I don't know, the first one was 6 different races. It'll give you 5 different races, and it'll kind of just like say, you know, like these white lines here will become a race, and then it'll vanish off of the map after that is done. So that's just kind of how this one is set up detail wise. So there's supposed to be over 3,000 kilometers of races on mountainsides and over 250 races, championships, missions, and challenges. So you get a career menu here. You can replay competitions. Basically, you're in the story of this family, this race car family, and you're trying to bring them back to glory. That's the narrative. You get people that pop up in the screen as like some way of telling narrative. That's about it. And then there's also exhibitions, where you get to just kind of do quick little races. You earn more points, but they don't count towards anything. So we'll do, I don't know, down the Spirit Path just to get into a quick race, and then we'll show off other stuff. So I've got a car or 2 here, like a Camaro, and then you're actually able to upgrade your cars, but we're going to show that after we get into a race here. There we go, so we're finally in here. Loading again, it feels longer. It's about a minute and a bit per level every time you go to race for the game to actually load. It does look better when it's undocked. I have checked that. It looks a little bit more confined. The visuals are a tad better. But when you're on the full screen, it's not too bad. It looks like the last generation racing title, which is pretty good for the Nintendo Switch. And I kind of bumped right into that guy. I thought I was doing a ghost trial. I totally forgot I picked a direct racing one. So cool. So one of the main features you can do right off the bat is similar to Forza, where it is a rewind feature. So you can go back in time and drive right into the side of a fence if you'd like to. So that's just kind of available generally so that you can rewind and redo things if you mess up, which is nice. I like that. I think it should be a standard in racing titles. Because, I mean, it's a nice little casual thing, and I don't want my whole race messed up because I make one incorrect turn. So when you're seeing the environments, you know what, let's talk about the actual mechanics first. So when you're driving, it feels similar to the original. You've got your Joy-Cons. I don't think the Joy-Cons are particularly amazing for racing titles, just due to the way that, like, you know, your triggers are really tiny, and I find it a little bit uncomfortable. So that aside, it does handle pretty well. It's got the movement for kind of like drifting and everything like that. And, you know, it does feel fine. I mean, it's a typical sort of racing title. You get that 3D style to it, which is great. And it looks and it feels proper to what a modern racing game should. if you press the start button here, which I'm going to, and hopefully this doesn't mess up my next move, you can turn on and off assistances if you'd like kind of steering, braking assists. Stuff like that is present. You can have the racing line on or off. You can turn off player names. You can see speed units however you'd like. Here are the controls just to get a general idea of it. And again, it's very, very modern in that sense. So jumping back to it, it gives you a countdown timer before things happen, and then you are good to go again. Going back to the multiplayer aspect, 4-player split screen. And again, it's nice that you can have 2 people play off one set of Joy-Cons. I think that's a really nice feature, and I think it runs relatively well in that method. That aside, looking at the gameplay and generally the visuals, you have a very simple HUD. You see your position on the top left, you see your progress on the top right, and your time. Your speed and your gear on the right bottom side, and then on the bottom left you have a map with arrows of your opponents. Pretty standard. Visually, I think the car models are actually pretty good. A little bit jagged lines on some of the models. I find the first vehicle you get is actually really sharp, and they look a lot better again if you are undocked as opposed to being on a full TV display. That aside, I think that the background, I'm not sure, is quite as good. In some areas I feel like the textures are a little bit more impressive to a degree, but in the same sense you're still getting like lots of pop-in, and then some of the areas seem a little bit unfinished. I don't know what it is about this, it just seems a little bit odd. Like some areas, like particularly there was this tree one where there's like these, they also feel a bit more like fantasy setting, whereas the last one I think went for a bit more realism. Just again from what I watched and kind of recalled on that one. And there's this tree level where it's like the trees are bigger than life, and like you look kind of to the background and it's like these big empty areas, and it seems like it just wasn't finished. And I get that same sense when you see that the multiplayer isn't available. Like I know in the last game they had like a bit of a disappointing multiplayer, just the way it was set up, where it was kind of like competing scores. But in this one, not to even have it at launch, it's kind of like, I assume they're trying to get this ready for the holiday push, which is fine. Multiplayer you can add later. I'm not, too heartbroken about this. This is like, it's on the Switch. It's not a huge multiplayer console. This is something you're going to play locally. And the option to play in 4-player split screen is nice. I know a lot of people would appreciate it, especially with a 3D racing title, because there's not really any competition for this on the market for this platform. So we're going to switch over to the actual kind of cool little shop area that you get to customize. Alright, so here we are in the workshop. Now this was one of my favorite things about this game, and I find that it does something new genre wise, and I think this helps make it stand out just a little bit more. So we've got this like shop area, and we're able to personalize our cars here, tweak things, upgrade, stuff like that. So we're going to take our Camaro, and we're just going to plop it here. And then you can kind of upgrade it. You can improve the engine with the currency that you're earning. Credits earn pretty quick. It's not too bad at all. You can improve your gearbox and everything like that. Quickly see what it does to your car, how it improves it, how it makes it better. Very easy to understand. There's also, I guess, a graphics workshop, which I guess I should show. And with that, crap, wrong thing. Went to the tire one, my bad. So with the graphics workshop, you're actually able to sort of apply decals and customize colors. I mean, it's a nice option for a little bit of personalization. I mean, it's not wild, but I think it gives you enough of an option to kind of, do whatever you'd like, and you can buy cooler things and get yourself ranked up and do more wild stuff with it. Put in like stickers, and you get the gist of it. It's like a libraries kind of area, and it's nice to have that option. But you kind of get to customize your own space, which I think is really cool. So I put in like this locker room section. It's kind of useless, but it's neat. Oh, why is that like that? So yeah, now we've got, I put in a vending machine, and it's kind of cool. You see the menu here. You've got your important kind of workshop areas, and you unlock more with as you're playing. And then you've got all these various items that you can fill your kind of place with. As you can see, I'm rocking the Canadian flag there. I actually bought that with credits, and I put it in there. And you're not getting like microtransactioned or anything, it's just stuff that you earn while you're playing. And you can also pimp out the actual place itself. You can change it to like an old factory, a club, 50s diner, which I think is kind of a neat thing. It does seem to lag a little bit, you know, but it's a casual like menu area, so it really doesn't matter. But yeah, that's just some of the options that are present here, and you get like a full sort of area that you can move your items around in and build what you like. It's a fair amount of size, and it offers an extra level of creativity to the game, which I think is cool. You can also upgrade your facilities. You kind of hold in the right stick there. Oh, tap in the right stick, I guess. And then you're able to upgrade it, so I could go to a level 3 mechanical workshop, and it lets you work on new things and adjust stuff further. So there is like a sense of progression within the game as you're moving yourself up the chain and buying new, better stuff. Alright, here we are. We're back on the world map. You can see I finished first there. You get a pretty good cred boost by doing exhibition. And then we get some more exhibition levels that kind of go up. Immediately you can see your car dealerships kind of show up on the map. You can go to them, and you get like kind of a viewing window where you can go and you can buy vehicles if you have the credits for it. Spend money how you'd like and then upgrade, and there's a lot of things to kind of do in this. I believe there's 51 licensed cars from 22 big name manufacturers that are present within the game. So that's a pretty cool sort of thing. There's like McLaren and, you know, Chevrolet and Lotus and Porsche and Bugatti, those kind of car things. So we're gonna do a regular sort of race circuit so you can see what that's like and talk a bit more about the features that are present. I just want you to get a really good idea of what the map is like and just sort of the layout of how things play. So as you're noticing, like I mentioned earlier, you're actually seeing a track now appear once I've actually started the circuit and got going with it. So in the circuit, you're usually competing against like an individual. So this individual is usually like a top tier player, and it's just kind of like a goal thing that they add a little bit of a story. It's not something you're going to get really engaged in, but you know, there's people, you can see them here, and then you're supposed to like, I don't know, they kind of teach you how to play the game, kind of. That's just how they're wrapping that in there. So we're getting a bit of a darker setting. It seems like the maps do offer some variety in terms of the time of day that you come across. And I mean, the original did have like night and everything like that, so I don't know. I guess it's kind of a big deal. I don't really think it's too much in a racing game these days, but whatever. You do notice a fair bit of pop-in with the environment as you're driving by. That's kind of expected. I don't find that the skybox is too bad. It looks fine. Some of the textures are alright, but for the most part, it's not the most beautiful of games. And that's, you know, sort of expected on the Switch, but I was still hoping for a little bit more of an upgrade on this release. You know, they've moved away from that whole 3-star system of, because the last game was based around getting 3 stars. It really did feel like a mobile port, which was alright. And this one has turned into more of a natural racing title. You know, a natural, like, modern 3D one. Kind of lazy, not paying attention. The Hills guy still, like, that was like the main opponent of the last one. Anyways, just so you get an idea of it. And it definitely seems like they went for more of like a larger sort of racing, like almost outdoorsy type thing. And I'm not sure if that was like the best of ideas. Because the last one, it did feature some like outdoor environments, but it did have a lot of like really tight sort of cityscape levels. And I did like that, and while it did feel repetitive to a degree, I felt maybe that it was a little bit more polished and something that was slightly more distinct in this one. It feels like a follow-up, but I'm not sure it greatly, you know, does anything too new with the formula. And I'm not sure it's going to be for everyone. I think it's a fine racing title. It looks pretty good when it's undocked, and it's not bad to look at on the big screen. I mean, I don't mind it. It's not amazing. I mean, coming from reviewing the Forza titles all the time and a bunch of other racers through the year, it's not the most prettiest of games. But on the Switch, it's, you know, kind of like basically miles ahead of other similar titles. So I think that's something to be said for it. Because, I mean, you're not really going to get... I don't even think the other racing titles really offer a 4-player split-screen mode. which is something I know a lot of people on this platform like, is the local multiplayer option. So you get that kind of benefit. And I mean, it's not like the racetracks are bad by any means. They're actually offer a pretty good variety. You get lots of intense turns. Some of them are more winding. Some of them are more like, kind of, I want to say, drift based, if that's fair. So you get the sense of like there's a lot of variation in what you're actually coming across when you are racing along, and you know, you have the technical details to make it as pro as you want it to. It's just a very alright racing title. It's a very solid one. I'm still not determined if I like this one more or less than the first one. I feel it lags behind in some details, but at the same time there's quite a bit of content to this. You've got to be kidding me. Every time with that guy. Alright, so we're into another race here finally. The loading just kinda like drives me crazy with how long it takes. That aside, you're seeing another kind of form of racing in this one. So this is like the time trial thing, but it's basically, I don't know, sort of the same as a regular race. You can just float through people. They don't really change things up too much. And it would be nice to see a little bit more variation in what you're doing in terms of competing against others. Again, getting into that sense of repetitiveness. But you feel it a lot less in this game because you're not doing the same tracks. The last one kind of had you doing the same sort of competing levels over and over again. And it's nice that this one is able to mix it up by having unique levels, unique weather conditions. Well, they're not really weather conditions, but unique backdrops for your car racing. It doesn't really affect the actual racing all too much with it being snowy or anything like that. And it's weird that this isn't something that's more, I don't know, pushed out by the group, considering it is sort of its own thing on the console, right? On the Switch. There's not really competition. It's not really, it's in a league of its own, basically. And that's not from being like an amazing standard. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, there's not really competition, and they should be pushing this as like the racing title for the platform. I know you've got your like Mario Kart and your other arcade games, but this is actually like a sense of trying to be realistic with what it's doing, what it's presenting. And I think in some areas it's actually got some strengths, you know, in terms of like the customization and the fun little room you get to do it in. It tries for a story. I mean, the league option's neat, where you kind of, you know, get details and you match up with others. It's a fairly large world to drive in, and it seems like they were trying to be a little bit more professional with this release in terms of like not being star-based for how you do, and just like having larger scale environments and different types of like places that you can drive in, compared to the other one, which was very repetitive. You do the same sort of area and you just do like reverse tracks and stuff like that. But then again, I also didn't mind that, as this doesn't feel quite as, I don't know, complex or as much depth as that one did. It feels like, you know, very much the same type of game. It's just gotten various refinements. I don't think the AI is particularly bright in this one. They sort of drive like I do, and I just bash against walls and stuff because I'm not a super serious competitive racing person. I just kind of enjoy the cars and everything like that, and that's fine too. I mean, there's the options to play as like intense or as tactical as you want, and I think one of the strengths of this is being able to play it on the go. I think the music's generally fine. It sounds decent, and going back to that whole mobile thing, it's like, yeah, you can kind of take this anywhere and get that competitive type racing feeling. So I mean, that is an option. I mean, you know, I say that multiple times, I gotta stop doing that, but you get the sense of what I'm trying to get at, is that you can take this experience anywhere and have an actual comparative racing title, and you can't really do that with anything else at the current time. They'll be competitive. You've got phones are actually catching up with visuals quite well, and I mean, they definitely can outcompete the Switch graphic wise nowadays. Though you understand the sense of taking this as an actual console and setting it up and racing with other people. It's a cool thing to have. It's a nice option, and I think it, you know, comparatively does a decent job of presenting something that is fun to play. It would be nice to have like a general quick play option, and I'm pretty sure this is something I complained about in the first one, because sometimes you just want to go and like race. I got a bit of that done in, you know, doing the split screen and stuff, but you know what I mean, like sometimes you just want to get in and do a race, and I really like that in Forza, as I don't have to like play a mission or something. I can just go in and be like, I want this track, I want this weather condition, and I just play. And I think that they need to do something like that, but that's Gear.Club Unlimited 2.